Bears versus the Steelers, Monday Night Football. Another not so fun showdown slate. This is probably one of my least favorite. I'd rather do Jets showdown slates than Bears versus Steelers. I don't know, man. This is a 39 total today. And you have two of, the bottom 5 offenses in the league. Not looking forward to it. Pricing is pretty efficient, but anyways, I don't know, man. What are your thoughts on this, Ellie?
Yeah, super excited to be playing a terrible showdown slate yet again. The fun thing is I think this one actually does open up for some interesting builds just because there's so much news we don't have yet. And even with what we do know, especially about the Chicago Bears running back situation, I think it's going to push ownership in directions that may make some of those running backs a little bit more viable tonight. So, again, who knows though? The Steelers, we saw them go 27-0 last season, and then they lost 15 straight. So the problem with both these teams is I don't think they know who they are. So it's hard to determine what we're going to get. Yeah. So it's going to be fun, man, I guess.
But look, on Sunday, all the craziness that happened on Sunday, I'm not going to pretend to think that the Bears don't have a chance in this game after everything we saw that happened yesterday, including the Sunday Night Football game, which, I mean, who would have guessed that? I thought maybe the game could be close, but not like that. And by the way, man, that last garbage time touchdown pass to Sony Michel ruined the night for me. I was in second, and that just absolutely killed me. So, garbage time.
If Robert Woods doesn't fall short of that touchdown, right?
Like a foot length from winning me first place. Anyways, it is what it is. Sometimes you need garbage time. Sometimes it really hurts you.
And just real quick while we're talking about that though, if you watched the show yesterday, we were not planning for that game script at all. Yeah. We did not plan for that game script, but having the correct roster construction still benefited Tyson. He was literally a play away from cashing over a G last night on
off of $1,
literally on garbage time. That one touchdown to Sonny Michel changed everything. So.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. So this game, Chicago Bears versus the Steelers. Let's get into this. Throw us a like real quick, guys. We really appreciate it. Our goal is to get to 500 subscribers this month, so help us out with that. We would really appreciate that. Bears 3-5, 3 straight losses. They're headed downhill, although last week Justin Fields did have a pretty good game, but they did lose to the 49ers without their head coach. Matt Nagy sitting at home was actually probably the best thing for this team and Justin Fields. Now he's back. They're going into Pittsburgh. It's going to be probably low 40s, mid 40s, so nothing really to write home about. There's no weather to worry about. The Steelers are 4-3, and they have 3 straight wins. So these are teams headed in different directions, although I don't think the Steelers are really a contender this year. Maybe they'll slip into like a wild card spot and then get knocked off in the first round. We've seen Ben Roethlisberger just do average this year. Actually, I'd say probably below average. These offenses, last year the Steelers' offense was crushing for those first 10 or 11 games. They were doing really good. There was a lot of drops from their wide receivers, but man, this year has not started off well. Big Ben has had so many turnovers this year. I don't know, man. Do the Bears have a shot? Are you interested in getting some Bears exposure tonight, or do you think it's way too obvious to do a Najee Harris captain and put 3 or 4 Steelers in the flex?
I think if we've learned anything just from yesterday alone, this is the NFL, man. At any given Sunday, you're going to find out who can play, and these are professional teams. We can say what we want about the Bears and how inept they've been, but they still have a lot of talent on their team. They are professional athletes, and the Steelers are inconsistent. So I think the Bears do have a viable shot at keeping themselves in this game. And if they can get some pressure on Ben Roethlisberger and not let Najee Harris tear him up, I think that they could have a path to victory here.
Yeah.
But I still think Pittsburgh's going to end up taking it. I think this line is pretty much on point, about a touchdown differential. I also think we could see the under hit here. I know that's kind of crazy given how low the total is, but these offenses aren't good, man. And these defenses are pretty decent. So this would be an interesting one to look at the under. Both defenses are in play for me tonight. Let's put it that way.
Typically speaking, we're going to avoid like playing a ton of defense and a ton of especially kickers, but I think they're all in play. I don't think you can eliminate anybody for this slate. I really don't.
Wait, the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were.
Minus 310, home favorites. Chicago going on the road. 39 total. Look at this ownership difference is coming in right around, I don't know, a little under 100 percentage points difference in favor of the Steelers. So what I've noticed here is when I crunched 100 lineups, 70% of those lineups were either Steelers five-man or four-man stacks. So just right out of the gate, we know it's probably going to go heavy 4 or 5-man stacks for Pittsburgh. And one way you can just get different is a 3-3. I really think so. I really don't think that there's going to be a ton of, 3-3 lineups that could, maybe there's not enough players on Chicago that you'd be comfortable playing. So thoughts on that? Thoughts on your roster construction today? I know you typically want to stick with 4-2s or 2-4s or whatever, but you got to kind of take it slate by slate, don't you?
Yeah, I think this is a great slate to attack 4-2 and 2-4s actually today. I think this is one where I'm going to intentionally avoid the 3-3s. This is a very close line, so I just expect people to be a little bit more balanced on both sides of the ball. So I think you can, and honestly, we're going to see it. Like, there's still some people that are underpriced. Like, we're talking about Julio Jones and how he was priced last night. I think we're going to see similar stuff with Allen Robinson. Mm-hmm. He is the best player on the team. So at a certain point, a guy like that it becomes playable given his price and his opportunity and just upside given where he's at. So, I think things like that can be taken into account. This might be an interesting day to go 2-4 because I don't know how much. I don't know if I want Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool and Najee Harris in the same lineup. Having Najee and Deontay and then running back with 4 Bears seems viable to me today.
Yeah. So let's talk about injuries. We've got David Montgomery is the biggest news here. He's most likely to be activated off the IR. He practiced all week. He should be the starter in this game. Obviously, keep your eye open for that. But I would say it's a very, very good chance that he is the guy in this game, which, that really makes things a little bit more interesting for a guy like Khalil Herbert. Montgomery's at 8,400, which is a really good price for him. And then you have Khalil Herbert at 8,200. So getting a backup at 8,200 who might get his production cut in half or more, that is a little bit worrisome for me. I think his ownership will collapse, but we just don't know how well David Montgomery is going to do. And even if he's going to be, is he in shape enough to get 20 carries, 15 carries? I don't know. So in addition to that, we've got Juju's obviously out. Eric Ebron is out. Damian Williams for Chicago is out. Darnell Mooney is questionable. So this is the biggest news that we're really waiting on. He was limited in practice for the past few days. It looks like he's trending towards playing, but we just don't know yet. I wish the best for Darnell Mooney, but for us, it makes things a lot easier if he's out. Because then you got guys like Damiere Byrd and Marquise Goodwin who are low priced and you'd be very, very comfortable playing a lot of. But if Mooney is in, he's been the number one receiver for this team, which is just insane to me. I don't understand that at all. So thoughts on some of these injuries. Darnell Mooney, if he plays, are you interested in getting some of him?
Yeah, Darnell Mooney, if he plays, I don't mind him at all. I think that he's an awesome receiver opposite Allen Robinson, and he is going to take some pressure off of A-Rob. So I think that he has the opportunity to crush. As far as some of these other injuries, I honestly liked I liked Pat Fryermuth a little bit. Just seeing that Eric Ebron is still not playing, but just looking at his price tag, I don't know that I'm going to be getting there. But I think that that still is going to open up some other stuff. But I think the Chicago defense is something that we need to take a look at, right? You got Eddie Jackson out, Khalil Mack, Alec Ogletree. Those are really important pieces to that defense.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth noting that, see, I pulled up some rankings here. The Steelers have the 26th ranked offensive line right now in the NFL. Now, Chicago's not much better. They're, see, well, yeah, 18. So I think that it may balance out. Some of these injuries may actually end up becoming a wash just because of how inconsistent the Steelers line is played. So I don't know, man. I don't know if we're going to need to take as much stock in guys like Khalil Mack and Alec Ogletree being out, but I also don't see any clear, obvious value that we're getting with some of these injuries other than Darnell Mooney. If he is out, we're going to see a lot of wide receivers that we're willing to jam in today.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the breakdown. Break it down. All right, so what I want to talk about first is some of these rankings. I'm glad you brought that up. The Bears are last in the NFL in yards per game. Steelers are 25th in yards per game. Steelers are ranked 26th in pass yards this year, and Bears are ranked 22nd in pass yards this year. These offenses suck, and I really think that you could target the run game quite a bit. You can have 3 running backs in your lineups tonight. I really think that could get you there, and don't be afraid to play defenses. Don't be afraid to play kickers. Can these teams hit the over and just have an amazing game? Absolutely. Can the Bears win 35-31? Yeah. But I just don't see it happening, man. You can have a couple of lineups that plan for that. Maybe you have like a Bears onslaught, a Steelers onslaught. But I think the majority of your lineups should focus on the under with Najee Harris at captain. And then you can get creative from there. I just think that that's the best way to go. And not to get too creative like we did last night on that slate, because there's a lot of possibilities last night. I don't see a lot of craziness happening tonight. I really don't. All right, so Ben Roethlisberger is 10.6K. Not having the best of years. Justin Fields has basically sucked the whole year except for last game. He showed his rushing upside. He looked good. They still lost, though. They still lost. But he had 29 fantasy points. He threw the ball 27 times. He had 175 yards passing and a touchdown. He did have 1 pick, but he ran the ball 10 times for 103 yards and a touchdown. That 4th and 2 or whatever that was that he ended up scoring on that broken play was pretty awesome. So I'm very interested in Justin Fields simply because of his rushing upside. And in a game like this, if you get a rushing touchdown from your quarterback, from a team that's projected to really only score 2 touchdowns, and he's one of the guys that gets you a touchdown, I just think that Justin Fields is going to be probably responsible for at least one of those touchdowns. At 10.4K, I think he's a little overpriced. I would love to see him under 10K in a game like this. I mean, Tannehill was 9,800, and you're telling me Justin Fields is 10.4K. I know it's slate by slate. It's all based on the players around you, but I don't know, man. Justin Fields, I'm super into. Ben Roethlisberger, I will get some, but I might not get more than 15-20% Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. The Ben Roethlisberger take. I disagree a little bit on the Justin Fields take. I think the best thing that happened to Justin Fields was having Matt Nagy off the sideline for him. But with him coming back, I think we're going to see some of his performance muted. And just one thing that I did find out, as I was doing a little bit more research here, and I don't think this is going to be shocking at all, but the Bears are dead last in the league with 12% sack adjusted rate. So they're looking at a Steelers defensive line that is 10th in pressure rate at 40%. Now this opens up 2 different scenarios, right? To your point, if Justin Fields is really the guy and he's starting to build that confidence and really use his mobility, I think this actually might be, this could benefit him if Matt Nagy leverages this and allows the Steelers defensive front to over pursue, right?
Yeah.
If they're chasing him down, that's going to open up rushing opportunities for Justin Fields. But the problem is let's see, what do we have on offensive line injuries for the Bears. They're just not really reporting that. This offensive line for the Bears is just garbage, though. So I don't know. TJ Watt could just destroy the line before they even have before Justin Fields has an opportunity to make a read, and that kind of scares me. Now, all that said, my final decision will come once I start seeing some ownership projections and monitor this line movement. I think we're going to see a little bit of change. 39 points, 40 points is a really low total for an NFL game.
Yeah.
And I know I said something about the under there, but let's see what direction it goes. If it stays the same, then I think that the under will probably hit, which means that I'm not going to be as likely to take a guy like Justin Fields. But if we see a little bit of positive movement, maybe it goes up to 41, 42 and a half, both quarterbacks will actually be a little bit more interesting to me.
Yeah. As of right now, ownership projections are coming in. Justin Fields is potentially the 5th highest owned captain and possibly the 4th or 5th highest owned player on the slate. And you're talking about a running quarterback. I don't know, man. I think it's interesting, and he is priced up, but he's not like one of the most expensive guys on the slate. So you're able to really kind of, I don't know, man. Like there's some interesting. You put him at captain and you stack up 4 Steelers in the flex. That's kind of an interesting build, and I kind of like it. Let's move over to running backs.
Absolutely, and start with the Chicago side. I think this is really going to be the side that we need to nail tonight, right? There's going to be some interesting things here. And one thing that I did want to bring up, I was looking at some of the sports books today, and they really haven't adjusted the anytime touchdown odds for Herbert and Montgomery. Right now, it looks like Herbert is still the favorite to score a touchdown as opposed to Montgomery. And I know that's a lot of news that we're waiting on, right? We need to make sure that he's fully activated off of IR, which we're expecting to happen sometime today. I think Matt Nagy commented on it this morning. So we really need to pay attention to the situation. One thing that I am interested in here is actually just because Herbert is priced up so much, I don't mind potentially considering a handcuff here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
And to your point, I don't mind actually throwing in Justin Fields that handcuff. If you have Justin Fields, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert,
I love it.
I definitely think that there's some opportunity there. And I mean, in a 40-point total, guys, like even if Herbert only has a touchdown, 20, 30 yards, you need to capture every single touchdown.
Yeah.
Team total for the Bears is at 16 points. So you're looking at 1 touchdown and like 4 field goals. That's terrible math. But like that's something that we need to consider. So if you think David Montgomery is going to rush for 120 yards, but Khalil Herbert's going to have 2 receptions, 30 yards, and a touchdown, then you need to think about handcuffing them.
Yeah.
But again, this is very important. We need to see what kind of news we're going to get. We know that David Montgomery is the workhorse back. So if he's fully healthy, I do expect him to sit around 20, 22 carries.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was crushing earlier in the year. I mean, he does play for the Bears, so there's that. But you got a guy in week 1 that came out and scored, had 16 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. And then week 4 against Detroit, he had 2 touchdowns. I think his upside is there. He's clearly the number 1 guy. They're going to want to get him involved. But having Montgomery, Herbert, excuse me, and Fields in the same lineup is actually pretty nice. And that could be your entire Chicago allocation for your lineups there. And putting Najee Harris in captain with both Montgomery and Herbert in the flex, not a lot of people are going to do that. And we're going to need to find a way to get different with Harris at captain. So this might be one way to do it. All right, so go ahead.
Real quick, before we move over to Pittsburgh, the one thing that I do want to call out here is I don't want to get overexcited. Both these positions, I'm still probably going to be with the field. David Montgomery, I am actually interested in a little bit at the captain spot just because of his price. But I want to emphasize the importance of how shitty this offensive line is. It doesn't matter if you have Barry Sanders back there. If you don't have an offensive line to block, you're going to get torn up against a defensive front that has TJ Watt and I don't know, whoever else is on that team. This front 7 is not a bad front 7. So just keep that in mind, right? These are ways to get different. I don't mind doing the handcuff in 1 or 2 lineups, but that's just in deeper field GPPs.
Absolutely.
We need to make sure you're considering how poor the Chicago offensive line is playing recently.
So moving over to Pittsburgh, there's only really one guy to talk about here, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, the guy's Najee Harris. I swear this guy's taken over as number one target. Last week, he only had 3 targets, but 29 yards, 3 receptions on top of his 26 carries and 91 rush yards, right? Like he's a workhorse back. He's looks like he's averaging close to 22 fantasy points per game.
I know.
So
he's got a high floor, man.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, he's probably a lock in flex. I may or may not have any captain exposure to him. It's going to be a little bit difficult unless we find some value that we're absolutely in love with. But he's on the field all the time. He's getting the ball. Ben Roethlisberger is 96, and he's not on the same regiment that Tom Brady is on. And I'm dead serious.
He's on the cheeseburger regiment.
Bro, if you watch this guy try and throw any pass that's deeper than 7 yards, like it's just a shit show, right? Like it looks like he's seizing or something. But, Najee Harris is the guy. That's why he's involved. He's going to get those dump off screen passes. And I think it's going to open up the game for everybody else. And then I'm just not touching any of these other guys.
There's no reason
to.
What
about you?
There's no reason to. Look, Balaj is 200, Benny Snell's 1,400, McFarland's 200, Derek Watt's 200. They're priced that way for a reason. And usually when we're looking at these low price guys, we want volume of snaps. We want to see them in the game 30% of the time or 40% of the time or even 25% of the time. These guys are barely getting 4% of the snaps per game. They're not playing. There's no reason to play them. Now, can you put one of them in if you're doing a 150 max, can you toss in Balaj in 1 or 2 lineups? Sure. But I'm not playing more than like 3% of these guys. I'm just not doing it. It's a waste of a lineup. And
Bro, so let's put it this way. All 5 of these guys were active last week against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, I want no part of that other than Najee Harris.
Yeah, because even if one of these backups score randomly, let's say Benny Snell scores, are you confident that you're going to pick the right guy? What if Balaj scores? What if McFarland? Like, there's so many different options. It's not worth it. We usually love playing backup running backs, but it is not worth it this week. I really don't think so, unless you're getting 1 or 2 lineups out of 150. That may be the only way I ever get any of these guys. Najee Harris, the captain. Najee Harris in the flex. You could almost do that 100% across the board. I know recently we've seen a lot of injuries from chalk players, so let's, prayers up for Najee Harris to make it through the game. But I don't think, besides an injury, I don't think there's really a path that he fails, like, miserably. I think he probably gets you 18 to 20 fantasy points, most likely. And on a slate like this, that guy's got to be in your captain spot almost, The only reason that he may not be is you pick a low-price guy that you could fit a lot of the other high-price guys in the flex. All right, so wide receivers for Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson's 11.2K. This guy's going to get 79 targets and probably 8 receptions. It's just pretty much going to happen. Is he going to score a touchdown? Who knows? Is he going to get over 75 yards? Who knows? Chase Claypool, 9K. James Washington, 5,200. Ray McLeod is 2,200. Really nobody else to talk about. You can mention Cody White at 200. I don't really think so. You got Anthony Miller, who's on the team, but he hasn't really been active. I think he might still be on the practice squad. The only reason I bring up Anthony Miller is because we love our revenge storylines. I'm not touching him. I'm not touching really anybody. I might get one lineup with Cody White. Even Ray McLeod is a little risky to me. I'm sticking with Deontay, Claypool, and Washington. Deontay is clearly the number one guy. The issue with Claypool, I mean, look, last year Claypool had 11 touchdowns. This year he has 1. Now, I think that has to do a lot with just the overall offense, but he's just not scoring, and he is kind of scoring dependent. He's the kind of guy that'll get you 2 or 3 touchdowns in a game and absolutely break the slate. He hasn't done that this year. He's at 9K. That's a little pricey, but if you put him at captain, you might get a little bit of savings, and you might still have that upside. So when it comes to actual snap counts, last week we saw Deontay Johnson and Claypool get about 97% of the snaps, and from there it just drops off. James Washington gets 50. And on the season, he's averaging about 45% of the snaps, but he's not running as many routes. Both Deontay Johnson and Claypool, you can argue, are 1A, 1B, but Deontay Johnson just getting more of the targets. So, Ellie, what are your thoughts on Johnson, Claypool, and Washington? Do we have to try to fit in Deontay Johnson with the amount of targets and receptions he gets?
So don't fight me for this one, but like I feel like Deontay Johnson is more of like a cash game lock just because his floor is going to be consistently at the 15, 16 points. I think Chase Claypool is more the guy that I'm going to be looking at for GPPs, especially at 9K.
Yeah.
Unless, and again, I don't have ownership on my site yet. So unless there's a massive ownership discrepancy and everyone's leaning towards Claypool, if it's like 50-50, and then I'm just going to lean towards Claypool.
About 10%. 10% lower as Claypool is.
Oh, well, then what's his captain ranking? Where's he at for that?
He's low, man. He's very low. Let's see. Actually, he's like fifth. He's like fifth in captain.
So he becomes an interesting captain play at that price, 9K. So the thing about Chase Claypool is he only needs 2 or 3 receptions to take it to the house, right? He can break the slate. I mean, what is it? Versus Denver, he had 24 fantasy points. He had
27.
6 targets. 27?
Yeah.
Okay. He had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 130 yards, and a receiving touchdown, right? Like
he's just missing touchdowns this year. I mean, you look at his
add
outputs,
a touchdown to any of these games, and he's crushing.
You add a touchdown to any of these games, and he's absolutely going off. He's just not scoring touchdowns, and the team isn't really scoring touchdowns. So that could be a direct. And Najee Harris is getting most of the volume in that department. So.
Well, I have one more thing to say about the wide receivers here. Deontay Johnson, though, is if you think that this is going to come under or it's going to be a low-scoring game, then you might need the raw points that are going to come with the PPR for Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
Those targets are crazy. So, I mean, he doesn't need a touchdown to get you to the 15, 16-point mark.
We saw it with Cooper Kupp last night. He didn't need to score. He just got a ton of receptions. That's important. And it was almost like we called it. And I'm thinking the same here, where you don't need Ben Roethlisberger in a lineup with Deontay Johnson and Claypool because of the upside on receptions. All right, so let's move over to the Bear side of things.
Wait, the Bears are what we thought they were. They're what we thought they were.
Darnell Mooney is 6,400. Questionable. Keep an eye out for him. Looks like he might play, but if he's out, it really opens things up for more so for Allen Robinson at 7,200, Marquise Goodwin at 4,200, and Damiere Byrd at 600. Now, Damiere Byrd is really interesting here. Former Cardinal, former Patriot. We know he's got some PPR upside. We know he can probably get you 4 or 5 receptions and maybe 50 yards. He's a solid guy. And at $600, if Darnell Mooney is out, I'm going to play a ton of Damiere Byrd because that really opens things up for us. We don't have much value on this slate. Marquise Goodwin, I'm not super interested in with Darnell Mooney in. So from here on out, let's assume Darnell Mooney is in, and I don't really like anybody else besides Robinson on this. Maybe a couple lineups with Byrd because he's so cheap. So thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I mean, A-Rob is still the best guy on this team. I think the fact that he's not getting the ball has more to do with the offensive line. Just, I don't know, the lack of consistency that you're getting from the quarterback play. I mean, Justin Fields had 27 attempts, 32 attempts, 27, and before that, he capped out at 20. So, I mean, just the overall opportunities have been minimized. I think that they're starting to get a little bit more comfortable with him throwing the ball, but that impacts the production overall, just how bad that offensive line is playing. Now, that said, I'll be a homer on this. I'll keep playing Allen Robinson at 7,200. That's just not a right price for him. We know this guy. I mean, if we pull up last season, I mean, dude,
last season, and he was in talks as a top 5 wide receiver going into the year, and the year before he was incredible.
Right, like we're talking about. I mean, he had 20 points, 27, 27, 20, and multiple times where he put up a decent output, and I think his floor was probably close to 13 points. Now, again, you don't need to go crazy with him, but I really think that he is definitely going to be in play here. I expect people to stop playing him just because of the question marks that they have. I mean,
they've gotten burned by him so many times this year.
Yeah, and I can at this point. I mean, I've got him in best ball. I got him in season long. At this point, I'm just committed to playing him when I can. So, but as far as that goes, like again, Darnell Mooney, he's in a great spot. He is a part of this offense. He's getting involved. I like his price tag, and he does have touchdown upside. He's their new Anthony Miller, but I think he's just a better player.
Yeah.
So I have all kinds of love for him. If he's out, I can't with Marquise Goodwin at 4,200.
Yeah, it's too
I
expensive.
can't play that. The dude runs a 3.240. So again, if you're really thinking crazy and you think that he's going to bust out a touchdown, then that's the only reason why I throw him in there. But I just don't know.
He's got he's got Hollywood Brown upside, but he's just not that good of a player.
Right. I think Damiere Byrd is going to be the guy that I'd be willing to play. But again, I'm not 100% sure there. I really don't know how much these guys I'm going to be targeting. Against a good Steelers front seven, I think that the running game is going to be where Matt Nagy kind of tries to rely so that he's not putting too much pressure on Justin Fields. If they can do that and establish a strong offensive presence in the trenches, then they'll open up some play action and some RPO for Justin Fields that'll get to these receivers. But for now, these guys are all going to be secondary outside of A-Rob and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I'm not really prioritizing any of these guys. I'll probably be with the field on them. And if Mooney's out, then that kind of changes things for me a little bit. But I'm not going to prioritize. I'd rather get running backs and defenses and kickers in for this. And that is what the rest of the field is going to do too, most likely.
Yeah, I think one of these guys max in lineups, unless Damiere Byrd unless Darnell Mooney's out or somebody's out and Damiere Byrd is all of a sudden the best value on the slate.
We should be wearing free Allen Robinson t-shirts, not Odell Beckham.
Bro, he got freed. Like,
yeah,
he is as free as you can be right now.
Free Allen Robinson. Yeah, Allen Robinson at this point would rather go back to the Jaguars at this point.
Bro, he's hoping for Colt McCoy. Like, goddamn.
All right, Ellie. This is I gotta do the graphic here. We're gonna have you take care of tight ends because you're a tight end guy.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Exactly.
So just as a sneak peek, I will not be playing tight end captain probably this week. But let's look at the Chicago side of the ball. I think a guy that we've been getting a lot of that's been getting a little bit more attention is Cole Kmet. He finally had a touchdown. Let's see, when was it? Didn't he have a touchdown? Where's it showing?
He didn't have a touchdown. That was Jesse James that had a touchdown last week. Yeah, Jesse James. A revenge game for Jesse James, by the way.
Then you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just have a bold take. I think this is the day that Cole Kmet gets a touchdown.
There you go.
At 5,800, I don't mind him in the flex, having a little bit of exposure. I honestly kind of like him better than, I guess whatever else wide receivers outside of Darnell Mooney and A-Rob. I think he might be kind of even with A-Rob right now. Young quarterbacks, right? It's easy to fall in love with your tight ends and your running backs out in the flat. So I think that's really going to open up some opportunity. And given their offensive line struggles, I think we're going to see some 2 tight end sets. And that could mean more Jesse James at 3K. I don't know if I'm going to be getting there.
Yeah.
I think with the low total and the lack of touchdowns that we're expecting tonight, that sticking with maybe the kickers at that price range is probably the way to go. But, Jesse James is an okay guy to take a flyer on here and there.
Yeah.
In MME, don't play him in a single entry. But
the issue, if I could just bring up a stat here real quick, the issue with Jesse James is you just don't have a high ceiling, and he's getting like 35% of the snaps. So you can play him, but his opportunities are so low. You probably can get a touchdown and maybe 2 receptions out of him on the high end. Cole Kmet is on the field 90-something% of the time. Last week he played 94%. He's averaging 82% of the snaps this year. And he's running just as many routes as the wide receivers, Cole Kmet is. He's just not getting targets that much. So 5,800 is nice. I mean, he could be, in theory, Cole Kmet could be the number 1 target or number 2 target in this game.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all, man. Now, one thing I do want to call out, you'll probably see some love on Twitter, or you'll see some people talking about $200 Jimmy Graham.
I know. I couldn't put him in my player pool, man. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. don't fall for the Sharks being shitheads, guys. Like,
Yeah.
this is $100-$200 player we're probably not going to get to. That's all I got to say. Let's see if he's even active. They have
He
4
might not be
tight
active.
ends. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he's the
All right.
most overpriced, like, third or fourth string tight end in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, at $200 too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or you mean his actual
just real
contract.
money. Yeah, real money.
Yeah, never mind.
All right,
All right, you want to move over to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. So Pittsburgh does open up a little bit more of an interesting setup here. I think Pat Freiermuth at 7K is kind of overpriced here, which does pose an interesting scenario of him coming under ownership expectations. I think this will drive his ownership under 20%, which has me very comfortable. Being with the field, or maybe even slightly over 25 to 30%. He is an interesting captain play. If he is going to have a touchdown and 3 or 4 receptions, 50, 60 yards, right? I mean, look at last week. He had 4 receptions, 44 yards, and a receiving touchdown for 14.5 fantasy points. And on a slate like this, where everybody's priced so extreme, that might be the difference to being able to play Najee Harris and David Montgomery, as opposed to having to jam in a guy like Jimmy Graham or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't mind Freiermuth, but I think a guy worth looking at as well. You talked about this with me a little bit pregame, is Zach Gentry. The dude's going to be on the field. He's cheap. He had 5 targets last week, 39 yards and 3 receptions. So it kind of looks hit or miss on his involvement in the offense. But again, like another team that wants to run the ball, maybe we'll see a little bit of more two tight end sets. I mean, I'd rather have if I'm Mike Epps or Omar Epps or Mike Tomlin, then I'd rather have Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, maybe even James Washington on the field, but set up Najee Harris in a better opportunity to run. If Najee Harris is dominating the line of scrimmage, it's just going to open up the opportunity for the wide receivers. And I think we're going to see 2 tight end sets, which is going to open up some opportunity for Zach Gentry. What do you think?
I think it's a good point. And an interesting stack is Najee Harris with one of these tight ends, because if you got 2 tight ends on the field, whether it be Freiermuth or Gentry, when you get some play action in the red zone, I think they can both benefit from that. The interesting thing last week was, is it Freiermuth or Freiermuth?
No idea.
Pat F. He had about 79% of the snaps, and Gentry had 62% of the snaps. So they were on the field together a lot. They ran a lot of 2 tight end. Previously, on average, Gentry is only getting about 29% of the snaps on the season. So they really made it a point to get him on the field more. And that kind of paid off. I mean, he did have 5 targets, 3 receptions for 39 yards. He's $1,800. We need value. So I think that is a good value option, is Gentry. And then Freiermuth, 7K. It's going to be hard to fit him in lineups. You're going to have to go out of your way to fit him in lineups, because he's not, median projection isn't really there. I only got him in, out of 100 lineups, I only got him in 7 lineups when I just crunched with no settings. And that kind of gets you, it kind of guides you as to where the field can end up. He can end up lower owned than he probably should be. All right. Anything else?
No, but I did find some cool information. So while you run into the next 2 subjects, I'm going to see if I can backtrack some stuff. I just found a site that gave me a detailed breakdown of offensive personnel grouping. So if you're running 3 wide receivers, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, etc. So I'm going to see if we can get some more detail on how many times they run with dual tight end sets.
Oh yeah, there you go. So Chris Boswell got absolutely annihilated last week on a fake field goal attempt where he ran out to his right and tried to pass it. Got absolutely annihilated. He seems like he's back to being healthy. He's back in one piece for this game. He's 3,800. And Cairo Santos is 3,600. The interesting thing here, in a game with such a low total, they priced down these kickers quite a bit. Where the last slate, it was 4,200, 4,400 or something to that effect. You're getting a little bit of savings from the kickers this week. So I actually really kind of enjoy. Now, well, I don't enjoy it, but I won't enjoy it for sure. I'll be pissed if I get 25% of them, but you're probably going to have to. Either one of these guys is in play. Cairo Santos, probably more so because it feels like Chicago's going to get, if they can get to the red zone even, if they can get past the 50-yard line, they might get stuck. But on the other side of it, do they go for it? They don't have a good record. They have nothing to lose. Do they just go for it a lot in this game as opposed to kicking it? I don't know. We'll see. Get 25%. Get 30% of them. Typically we're talking about getting under the field. I'm going to be with the field, maybe a little bit over with a total like this. Because if you get a guy like Boswell who gets you 3 field goals, one of which is from 50+ yards, he's going to be in the optimal if they hit the 39 total. Ellie, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of looking at some of the stuff. It looks like this site's pretty cool that I found. But yeah, man, I agree. I think this is going to be an interesting one to get a little bit more exposure to these kickers. I just feel a little bit more comfortable this time playing a guy like Boswell, playing a guy like Cairo Santos at those price tags. I don't really see anything else. And as we went through this breakdown, I didn't really see anything that I was comfortable with playing. That was just a pure punt. So, I think I'm going to have a little bit more exposure to these kickers than I normally would. Yeah. What are you seeing them? Are they over 20%?
No, they're not, which is insane because on previous slates, you see the kickers right 25% projected. So as we get closer and projections are updated, I think they're going to end up being higher. At least they should be. All right, so defenses, Steelers 5K, they're going to be high owned. And, maybe there's a good reason for that. Bears, 2,600. They're going to be probably 20% owned-ish. I like both of these. I like taking flyers on both of these defense. As we saw last night, no one played the Titans defense against the Rams because why would you? I ended up with 3 or 4 lineups, and those lineups absolutely made me money. Can Ben Roethlisberger fumble 3 times and throw 2 picks? Absolutely. Can he fumble and it be recovered for a touchdown? Absolutely. I think you gotta think about playing the Bears defense in this game. You gotta put and the Steelers defense is first of all they're a little overpriced or they're high priced, and they're gonna be high owned. I don't love getting a defense with that high ownership, but I think you got to stick with the field because there's a chance that they do end up getting you 11+ points. So I don't know. Do you agree with me on the Bears defense?
Yeah, I think both defenses are in play. I think we learned that last night too. I don't think the Bears are quite where the Titans are, but I don't know if the Titans are really that good of a defense either. They had a great showing last night, and again, I think it's important to remember these are professional athletes. This is a Steelers offensive line group that is also struggling pretty significantly, and I think the Bears do have an opportunity to take advantage of that. So I think both defenses are in play. I will have them. I think when you're building 3-3 stacks, that might be an interesting way to kind of build double stack both defenses. But I also think that might be a little bit more common. So it might be worth kind of just picking who you think is going to win this game and then doing a 2-4 where you take the 2 top players from the other team and then throw in 3 offensive players in the defense to run it back with, or vice versa. So I think that might be the way to go on a slate like this, maybe picking 1 defense. I think 2 defenses on under 40 total is going to be a little bit more chalky than people are anticipating.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to play quarterback versus defense or opposing quarterback versus the opposing defense. All right, so let's go to fade of the night here. No! I don't think you can really fade anybody. I don't know. That's just my opinion. There's just no one that jumps out to me. I think if one player catches a touchdown and you don't have them, your night might be over because it's just such a low-scoring game. I don't really want to play a lot of this game. Here's the interesting thing to me. Last night, I was not loving the builds. I was not loving the game. I wasn't loving the builds. And this has happened to me so many times where I'm just I'm not really into this. And those are my best nights for some reason. Maybe because I'm detached from a very strong take. So I just kind of, I play it a little bit more safe, or maybe I just don't care and I just look at the numbers more. I don't know what it is, but a game like this I don't love. So that probably means I'll have a great night. I don't know. All right, let's go over to captains.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going with Montgomery. I'm going with Fields. Talk to me about Montgomery.
Yeah, man. I just think that he's in a good spot. His price is right, and I mean, he's been off for a month. I think he's going to come back ready to go. Khalil Herbert's had a pretty good run filling in for him. So if I'm David Montgomery, I'm ready to come back and take over my spot again.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is an opportunity for him to take a lot of pressure off of Justin Fields, and these two guys are the key to victory for the Bears team, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not David Montgomery and he doesn't end up playing, then it is going to be Khalil Herbert that I would substitute in this role.
Yeah.
But I think going with a Bears captain and one of these two guys, honestly, is going to be the way to go tonight. Everyone's going to be going Steelers, probably Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Fields, to me, has the rushing upside. He hasn't done well this year. Let's not sugarcoat it. He's a rookie. He's probably not going to have a great year overall. But in one game where there's going to be probably a lot of rushing attempts, and if you just get one rushing touchdown from him and you get 200 yards passing and one passing touchdown, he's going to be the guy that you're going to need at captain most likely. And he's like 4th or 5th highest owned. So to me, if he was the second highest owned, he would not be in this spot. But because he's so low owned, I'm interested in him. And another thing, I mean, look, I think you just got to go with. I'm going to continue our theme here of sports cards here. I think you got to go with Najee Harris in the captain for a good amount. I'm going to. It's just like, the other night, Jonathan Taylor. It's just such an obvious play, and sometimes the obvious plays are obvious for a reason because they're going to go off. I don't see him getting less than 20 carries. I don't see him being off the field for more than a couple plays in this game. So with all that opportunity, I just really think you got to focus on him for your single entries and your cash lineups and get a healthy amount of him in your tournament lineups because you don't want to just be you really don't want to be screwed when he scores 2 touchdowns because it could happen. All right, so lineup builds. And look, I like Chase Claypool too. I almost put Chase Claypool there for captain for the graphic. I think you should think about playing him a little bit more because he's not going to be high owned at all. So let's build a lineup together. Let's just see what it pops out with no settings. So Najee Harris at captain, Bears defense, Boswell, A-Rob, Mooney, and Deontay Johnson. No quarterbacks. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Let's build one with Najee Harris at captain and for tournaments. So what I want to do here, I want to fade Big Ben, and I want to try this. I want to try what we were just talking about. I want to try the Montgomery Herbert. And can we even go Fields? No, that's just too much. Let's start with Montgomery and Herbert, and then let's try to get in like a Claypool or Deontay. What do you think, Claypool?
Yeah, let's go Claypool.
And that leaves us with 5,800. So, I mean, I'm just not comfortable with a lot of the value plays tonight, but Gentry maybe I'd be comfortable with him, and then that gets you a kicker.
Yeah, probably Chris Boswell.
So that gets you Boswell, or that gets you, Santos. Just rotate those guys out. But that's a 3-3. No, it's a 4-2. Or you can pop in Santos. I think that is a still pretty high upside. It's not too crazy. And if you're in a 150,000 entry tournament with a guy that's probably going to be 25% owned at the captain, this still makes you different enough by having Montgomery and Herbert together.
So let's pull out everybody, leave Najee at captain, and then put in both quarterbacks. I just want to kind of see what the pricing looks like.
Okay. That's 10.4K for 3 spots.
10.4K. Yeah, you can't even.
Yeah,
I guess you'd have to throw in Claypool and then see what you can get. Oh no, that's only going to leave you 1,400.
Yeah, let's just see what happens when we do this. McFarlane, Boswell, and Mooney. I don't hate Mooney and Boswell, but I'm not playing McFarlane.
No.
So it makes it hard to get both quarterbacks with Najee Harris at captain. I think.
So
Go ahead.
let's do your build. Let's leave in Justin Fields. Let's fade Big Ben. Let's throw in Claypool and Montgomery. And I think we're gonna need to consider not playing Herbert in this lineup.
What about Bears defense or something?
I'm fine with the Bears defense. That's
2,600. That leaves us with 1,000. I mean, I just don't want to go that low. Now, if Mooney's out, then yeah, absolutely, I'll go and grab Damiere Byrd. But I don't think he's got that high upside with Mooney in.
so. All right, let's try with Justin Fields at captain then, because I think what we're going to end up doing here is landing on Claypool is a really nice captain option, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right, so Fields. Can we fade Big Ben again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd rather have Najee and Deontay or Najee and
So
Claypool.
with Montgomery and Herbert, you can rotate them out. You can play them together. For this example, maybe we put in Herbert.
Okay.
Who else you want to go with? You want to grab a wide receiver from the Bears?
Let's go. Yeah, let's run Darnell Mooney and see what that gives us.
Okay. Or you
And
could
then
go
can
Cole
we-
Kmet or something like that. But yeah, go ahead.
Can we get Deontay Johnson?
We got to try. That leaves us 8,600 for 2 spots.
So who do we like on Pittsburgh?
And we are fading Najee here, which is probably a bad idea, but
Yeah.
what does that do? Let's try this. I took out Mooney. Let's see if we can put Najee Harris in. That leaves us with 2,600. I don't know. Let's go with our original build and see if we can get one there.
I don't really have anything because we're going to end up having to play more Bears.
Yeah,
It's just too much. So
it's too much.
honestly, like, can we come off of Herbert?
Yeah.
If we're gonna do that, I'd just rather play David Montgomery or
We got to get we got to get Najee. I mean, I don't want to leave him out. This is the problem: is Deontay and Najee together? It's hard to play both those guys. 12.4K and 11.2K. That's hard, man. Unless you go with like a Claypool at captain,
So throw in David Montgomery, throw in both kickers, and let's see what that does.
All right. Boswell. That's 6,200 for the final spot. That gets us Cole Kmet, James Washington, Steelers defense. It's not bad.
I'll take Steelers defense. And
Not bad.
let's see if that gives us 4,800 if we want to come off of Santos.
Yeah, if you want to come off one of the kickers.
And there's nothing to come off for Santos. You can go to the Steelers defense off Boswell, maybe.
Okay. So let's put Santos back in. Steelers
And then both defense.
and 5K. So Marquise Goodwin, no. Boswell, no, not really. So I don't love Fields. Let's just see what happens when I optimize with Fields at captain. Gentry, Bears, Mooney, Deontay Johnson, and Harris. Yeah, I don't love that either. Let's try Claypool because he's $2,100 in the captain cheaper. That might get us in a good spot. So
And then
go ahead.
Najee.
You want to
And let's
quarterback?
try Justin Fields.
Okay, Fields. That leaves us with a decent amount. We got 4,500 per for 3 spots.
Can you go Mooney?
Let's go Mooney.
What does Steelers defense do? That only gives us like 2,300, right?
2,300.
So
Ray
that's not gonna work
McLeod,
either.
Zach Gentry. It's not much better.
No, it's
Not
not.
comfortable with anything.
All right, so instead of Justin Fields, let's go David Montgomery.
Okay. That leaves us with a little bit more. So let's kill these guys. We leave Mooney in.
Throw in Cairo. And what does that give us?
5,700.
James Washington.
Or Steelers defense. Either one. I don't know, man.
It's going to be tough building.
I don't love it, which means I'm going to have a good night.
All right. One last one. Let's see. Let's build with David Montgomery, captain. Just hit optimize on that. Let's see where we're at.
Santos, both kickers,
Jesus.
both top wide receivers, and Najee Harris.
Now that I'm not too upset with, actually. I don't mind that. What if... Okay, see, Deontay Johnson. Swap him out for Justin Fields.
Okay. Kill one of these kickers or both?
Yeah, can we go... Let's come off of Boswell and... throw in Gentry. I want to try something.
Okay, Gentry. 6,400.
On Mooney, can we come up to Claypool?
Let's do it. Claypool, that leaves us 3,800.
And then you get a kicker. Boswell or Santos.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
And if you drop from Boswell to Santos, you should be able to go from Fields to Big Ben if you're feeling froggy.
Right. You can switch it up. Yeah, you can do that too.
I almost hope Montgomery's out so we can just run Khalil Herbert to captain. That extra 200 is going to help us.
Look, all right, look. Let's do one more here real quick, and then we'll call it a night. Let's go low. Let's go low end. Is there anybody that you're comfortable going with at captain on the low end? Mooney? Steelers defense? A kicker?
Actually, if we're... I don't know if Allen Robinson counts as low end, but I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Let's do it. Let's try Allen Robinson because he's got... Well, and we were talking about this before the show. I want to get more Allen Robinson in the captain than in the flex because I think if he goes off, he goes off, and you want to have him at captain most likely. Justin Fields paired with him?
Yeah.
Najee Harris?
Throw in Deontay.
Let's go Deontay. We got to. This isn't bad. 5,200 for 2,600 per spot for 2 spots.
Throw in the Bears defense.
Bears defense. That's going to get us probably Ray or
Gentry.
Still
2,600, huh?
Yeah, Gentry or Ray. So you could go up to one of the kickers
and play Gentry.
Play Gentry. Yeah. Nope, you can't. You can't play Gentry.
Oh, he's 1,800.
Yeah. So you don't want to do that then. Jesse James and Gentry. I don't know, man.
All right, I guess we're just going to have to keep an eye on it, right? We need to keep an eye on inactives. We need to see if David Montgomery actually plays tonight. And don't be afraid to get weird, right? I think this is a night where you just got to find the guys that you think are going to get volume. If you think they're going to get a touchdown, then put them in your lineups. And maybe you build the flex out first and then throw in the captain based on what's left and see how you feel about it.
If Mooney's out, it really changes everything. It makes things a lot easier. But I think the way to go with Mooney in, I think the way to go is just go middle of the road. Don't go stars and scrubs this week. You don't have to go too low. I don't think that those guys on the low end have really much of a chance to do much of anything. So like the lowest I'd go is Gentry, and sprinkle in some of the defenses. I don't know, man. This is going to be interesting. Hit us up in the Discord or on Twitter. Ellie, what's your prediction for this game, and who's the low owned guy that you think can score?
I think Cole Kmet has his first touchdown today. I think that's a valid low owned guy that can score. Prediction, I'm gonna go with honestly the Bears 17-13.
I think I'm actually gonna go Bears 21-17. Who knows? Flip a coin this year. Who knows, man? I think Allen Robinson gets his first touchdown, or not first touchdown, but a touchdown tonight, and he actually has a game over 20 fantasy points.
I like it.
All right. Subscribe, like the video for us, guys. We appreciate it. Like I said, we're trying to get to 500 subscribers, so help us out with the subscribe. And we will see you for Thursday Night Football. All right, take it easy.